We are living during a critical time on this earth, and we're witnessing how important our connection is to our bodies and our spirits, our planet, and one another.
And we're recognizing that to stand in our truth means honoring the full spectrum of our emotional human experience.
We're seeking answers in all the stories and medicine that will support us and guide us as we create the safety we need to face our fears and to feel our feels.
And we cannot do this alone. Community, connection, and compassion are at the heart of our collective healing.
I'm Ellen, a breathwork and medicine companion and creator of Trip with Ellen.
And I'm Sam, an integrative energy therapist and creator of involution healing. Welcome. Journey with us.
This is Woo New.
I am so excited to be introducing Leah Garza, who is an Akashic practitioner and creator of Crystals of Altamira. This is where she offers radical healing through the lens of decoloniality, and this is such a special conversation for me, especially because I was feeling really called at the beginning of this year to expand my personal spiritual practice and, really just get into the process of learning new things and opening new connections. And the universe really beautifully guided me to Leah's Akashic mentorship. So Leah is very special soul and a very special connection for me in that I'm just so honored to be here with you, and I'm so honored to learn from you and to be in this space. So I want to welcome you, and to all of our listeners, I just want to mention that Ellen won't be present in this episode. We are sending her love, and her energy is with us. She is, off to, experiencing a very special opportunity to record her meditations and to really send her love out to the collective through her meditations. So we're sending her love and support while we're here. But this is such an exciting time for us to be really diving into the Akashic Records and learning about Leah. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I dream of one day meeting Ellen too. But yeah.
Yeah, I know she was really bummed to miss this, but the universe always works in such
specific ways.
Yes, exactly. And so the way that we just kept having to reschedule and that it sort of landed on this day feels very divinely planned.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Oh my gosh. It is such a pleasure to just be in your energy. Honestly, you're so welcoming, and all of my experiences in working with you and being in community with you have been so beautiful. So I just really first and foremost want to thank you for that, because it's so special. And it's something that I'm so grateful for. And I think
thank you.
Yeah.
Jeez, love fest over here.
Yeah. It's really incredible. So maybe for our listeners, we just can start at the beginning and learn a little bit about your healing journey and what brought you to where you are today.
Sure. Yeah. I'm a California gal. I am based in LA, and I am not historically a spiritual person. I like to say that I'm a skeptic. And, I was in education for almost 20 years. I was a classroom teacher. I did administration. I worked in nonprofits in education and did a lot of education organizing work. And I was pushed kind of violently off that career trajectory. My school closed, and this was in 2015, so not that long ago. And in my unemployment, which I had never really been unemployed since I was 17, and I figured I'll definitely get a 9-to-5 soon, but in the meantime I'm gonna enjoy these unemployment checks. And
amazing.
I thought it would just be a little fun time, so I started taking meditation classes, and I started just looking for hobbies or things that I could do for fun. I learned how to metalsmith at that time.
So cool.
But one of the things that I did was I took a class in theta healing, and I took an Akashic Records training. And I thought they would just be like little one-off things I just did until my real job came in. But no real job ever came in. And I was really pushing up against a brick wall trying to get back into like a 9-to-5 world, well, like a daytime teaching world. But at the same time, my entry into like this spiritual practice was like just green lights, green lights, green lights. And it took me a long time to settle my identity issues with like what it means to work for myself or work in this kind of like fringy work. It's not fringy anymore. It's the center now for me. But at the time, this is like weird stuff. But yeah, I finally leapt with both feet. And now I have a business, Crystals of Altamira, and I have a devotion to these practices, and it has changed my life in ways that I could never have dreamed of previously.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I mean, it very much mirrors Ellen and I's journeys because we came from digital marketing. And then, just leapt into this partnership where we created a business called We Are All Daughters that has, really was the catalyst into our own self-healing journeys. And Ellen really gravitated towards breath work, and I really gravitated towards energy healing. And since then, it's like, even though that was never what we could have imagined at the moment when we decided to do that, it's like the whole world is different now.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about your relationship to the Akashic Records, because this is such a beautiful space that I think the way that you work with the records is so unique. And so I'd just love to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. The Akashic Records have many definitions, many understandings of what I have met many people that think different things of it. And I'm not here to police anyone's understanding, but the way I understand this is we are accessing the primary source of the Akasha, which is a classical element of Vedantic Hinduism. I do not practice Hinduism, but this is my practice descends from this concept of this primary element. So we can understand this element as kind of like the ether, the vacuousness, space, eternity, the infinite. It has many names, but it is in that lineage, it is the source from which the other elements were born. So the other primary classical elements, which are the building blocks of life, like fire and air and earth and so forth, arose from the Akasha or the Akash. And what we understand the Akashic Records to be now really descends from the Victorian era and the New Thought school, the Theosophists, the esoteric movement in the 1870s that created this concept of like a record, like, oh, this primary element that contains everything and nothing is actually kind of like the archive of your soul, and everything that your soul has experienced is in this. And so the current popular definition is that the Akashic Records are the archive of the soul and its journey. So every lifetime, every iteration your soul has experienced, even parallel iterations that you've maybe never embodied that exist in only the realm of possibility, are alive in this record. And as a practitioner, I'm able to enter into this dimension of consciousness and understand myself from that perspective, which is a vast and limitless perspective. And just that alone has been a transformational experience for me, because I was previously so locked into the third the third dimension, the physical reality is the only reality. And I just don't believe that anymore. It's a sliver of reality, but it's not the whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the elevator pitch, I think.
Yeah, that's a really, thank you for summarizing it like that. It's so easy to understand in that way. And even since we started the Akashic mentorship, and you sort of went through all of the history and the practice with us, it's like I don't even like to refer to it almost as the records anymore because it feels like limiting.
Exactly. Me too. I use the term because it is a popular term and people have an idea of what that means, but it isn't truly. I have diverged from like the more mainstream Akashic record practices at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was it about the records as a practice that really drew you in?
Yeah. Well, I found this because a friend of mine at the time was like, I work with this woman. Her name is Helen Vonderheide. And I got an Akashic record reading with her. And I don't know why, but I think you need to take her beginner class. And I had never even heard the term before that. And I was like, I'm unemployed and maybe I shouldn't spend the money. And I don't know. And she was like, I'll pay for it. That's how much I think you should take it. And so I was like, hey, I can't say no to a potentially good time. I don't know. So I agreed to take the class, and it was at her house. And as soon as she opened the front door to let me in, I just had this feeling of like, I know her, I recognize her. And I'd never met her before. It was just that really deep resonant feeling in my body of like, this is so familiar. And then when we first opened the records that day, it was a 2-day training. The whole experience was a feeling of remembering. Like it was just so familiar. And it was, as a skeptic, I was constantly looking for like hard evidence that something is true or real. And the only proof that I had of like how real this was like the feeling of resonance in my body. Like this feels like a yes. I don't know why it defies logic, but this feels so right, like familiar and known to me. And so I was just at that point, like compelled, like almost on autopilot. Like I need to learn more. I need to do more classes. I need to read everything. I want to do this every day. And it was really like a switch just flipped in me. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I remember being there with energy healing too. And it's such an exciting experience for me to be at this place again with the records through your mentorship because because I feel like our journey is never over, right? So my work this year is to really deepen my practice and start exploring and learning again. And it's just it feels like a fire's been lit again that I'm so excited about.
Oh, I love that. I mean, that's how that is the feeling of resonance that like I cannot live, like it's intolerable now to me to pursue things that don't just light me up like that. And I'm so excited you're having that experience.
Yeah, it's been really powerful. And I think the other really special thing about the work that you do is your lens on decoloniality. And so I'd love to get into what that means to you and how you apply it to your practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes from my background as like I don't know, a justice seeker or like a defender. Like I just always, even as a child, like had this preoccupation with like fairness and equity. And, I really got into education because of that. I, at one time, believed that education was a source of equity. I no longer believe that, like getting an education, not, at least not in our public school system. And so I just got deeper and deeper into social justice movement around education, and I ended up getting a master's degree and a teaching credential at UCLA, whose teacher prep program is very, very social justice oriented. So I became like this politicized entity when it came to my orientation toward the world. I needed to go through that. I'm no longer in that phase of my journey anymore, but I see that it's because it comes from a deep love of people and a deep love of, or a deep respect for the dignity of life. I think that's like a core essential part of the lifetime of Leah Garza. And all of those pursuits took me down my own path of studying the roots of our oppressive systems. And that landed me in a PhD program at Pacifica Graduate Institute in the Community Liberation, Indigenous, and Eco-Psychology program. And so I'm in there now. I'm writing my dissertation now, and that is a essentially a depth psychology program, but we explore everything through the lens of decoloniality. And so what decoloniality is, it's like very it's not hard to define, but it isn't a simple thing to define either.
Right,
so what
right.
I say is that decoloniality is a lens. It's an approach. It's an ontological lens. It's a paradigm. It is not a process. So when people, want to do things like social justice, directives, like defund the police or something, they have steps to do it. There are no universal steps in decoloniality, because decoloniality is going to be local to where you are. You might have a movement or a directive or an impulse that's decolonial in your area that does not apply to any other place in the world. Decoloniality is not the binary opposite of coloniality or colonialism.
That's so important. Yeah.
Which is like, well, then why is it called that? And that's really difficult to understand. It does not equal indigenous. So a lot of people do use the word to mean some kind of return to indigeneity, and it doesn't only mean equal indigenous. And it's not the same as decolonizing, which decolonizing really truly refers to the rematriation of land back to original stewards of the land, like land back movements. And in fact, a lot of those activists believe that the term decolonize is watered down when we apply it to non-land issues. And I would say the last thing about decoloniality is that it requires us to invoke the imagination, not just because it feels good, but because we have to dream other realities, other possibilities, if we want to find ways outside of this like colonial ceiling that we're in this colonial ontology we live in.
Yeah. It's funny that, thank you for explaining it that way, because as you're talking through that, I was really thinking about, like, if you look at examples of how real change has been brought about in so many ways, it's not in trying to radicalize the systems that already exist. It's in planting new seeds and building something entirely different from the ground up. And I feel like we're seeing that in so many places right now, especially as people are becoming more sensitive to the systems that are currently in our ontology. And as we're using this term, I'm realizing it'll probably be helpful. Could you explain ontology for our listeners as well?
Yes, I just want to apologize first for being such a academic nerd and using these petty words. but I realize like ontology outside of academic texts is sometimes translated into the word paradigm. So, but I really don't think that's a great I don't think paradigm and ontology are actually the same, but it's really like ontology is the study of being and existence. It's a study of what counts as reality. So there are things that we count as reality in the colonial world. So when I say colonial world, I mean the culture and the world and the practices that descend from the modernist era, the colonialism that arose in the 1400s through 1600s and so on. And then there are things that don't count as reality, that do count as reality in other ontologies, like in indigenous ontologies or in post-humanist ontologies, or just there are other worlds. And unfortunately the colonial world has like an assumption that there's only one world. So like we make we don't even realize that we say statements that indicate this, but we'll say things like, everybody just wants to have success, or like everybody, like if you're not doing this, then you're not living your best life, or like, we make these generalizations that sweep across everyone when truly they don't fit everyone. Not everyone is oriented in the same way. And these are ontological differences. So ontology for me, as not just as an academic, I'm fascinated with it, but like as a practitioner who has I have a healing practice. I have public scholarship and mentorship courses where I am stewarding people through these kind of like transformational practices and educations. Knowing what ontology is, especially like if you are looking for healing, if you are a seeker, understanding ontology to me is absolutely critical. Like our healing practices in the Western world, without openly saying so, are generally designed to simply get you back to work and get you back to being a functional person in a capitalist economy. And to me, that's not healing. So but we wouldn't know that if we're not studying what counts as reality for healers or healing in the Western world versus what else is possible.
Yeah. And it's all unspoken.
Yeah.
It's like these programs that we just grow up learning and assuming that that's like our reality is the reality.
I mean, community psychology was created in places where, like, I forget what the town was. It was an industrial like mill town in Germany where people were becoming so like psychically just disheartened, like just their psychological spaces, like they just were becoming so truly just depressed. And they noticed this rampant like malaise happening, and this is like the 80s or whatever. This like malaise happening across this town. And so psychologists were brought in to be like, what is going on here? And they discovered like, oh, people are unhappy with this work schedule because they're working like 15 hours a day or whatever is before labor laws. Oof. And so we need to do whatever psychological treatments we can do to simply get them back to work. And that's like the root of community psychology comes from that.
Wow. Instead of looking at where the system needs to support the community.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that it's such an interesting idea because it's like it moves about in sort of these unspoken energetic exchanges. And it really builds a framework for literally everything that we perceive. And so I'm really fascinated to learn a little bit more around like how that specifically has shaped your practice with the records and even your offerings.
I mean, so my relationship with the Akashic Records from the jump was like very informing my view on what justice is. Like for example, that first class that I took, our homework was to go home, open the records, and just see what you get. And then we come back the next day and we'll report back. And like every person in the class, who are all, I mean, I don't know where your listeners are, but they were West LA yoga ladies. Like, if just to give you a character description. And they're all kind and sweet women for sure, but their interest in the records and their interest in self-development was very different from mine. And they're all, you know, sharing like, oh, I need to love myself. And the record said I need to be more compassionate. And they said I'm doing a good job. And then it got to be my turn. And I was like, they said that this is January of 2016. They said that Donald Trump is going to be elected and it's the last election for the United States.
Wait, shut the front door.
Yeah.
What?
That was like the first thing.
Was the room just like, what is happening?
They were like, why would you bring that negativity in here? And I was like, I don't know. I've barely done like 2 meditations in my life. I don't know what I heard. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm doing. I just was reporting back. This is just what I got. And it was like from that moment on, they were like, you are going, like, if you let us, we're going to share with you stuff to share with others about, I don't even know how to say it, about divesting from this path that is leading toward cataclysm.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like, were you really taken aback in that moment? Because if I got a message like that in a practice, I would be like, purpose found.
I mean, I was so lost, you know, like, so when my school closed, it was like such a shakeup. It was devastating. And then I was immediately rehired by the same charter. I worked for a charter school to start a new school at Men's Central Jail in LA. And I was very excited. I would be like the lead teacher. And it was just like, oh, I really want this. And a week before school started, I had already gone in, started setting up my classroom, meeting my students. And a week before the first day of school to the day, I got a random call from the sheriff's department saying that my clearance, my background clearance had been rescinded because I had gotten clearance to work there.
Yeah.
And then my boss called me immediately and they're like, I don't know what happened. I don't know why they did this. I've never heard of it. But we have to lay you off because you can't work if you don't have clearance, and we don't have any other positions at other schools open for you. And so it felt so
heartbreaking.
Confusing. Yeah, just confusing. And I was so identified as a teacher. Like that was like who I thought I was. And so to now have this identity just kind of be absent, like I think I'm this thing, but I'm not doing this thing. So am I this thing? I was just in this like confusion, like truly confused. And everything that I was receiving in the records resonated. It felt like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, that's a yes. That's a yes. And I just felt this trust to just listen, even if it wasn't it you know, like even if it didn't have any application. I remember they told me one time that I was going to start a podcast about love, and that it was going to be 6 episodes. The episodes would be 20 minutes each. And I was like, at that time, I was like, I don't know shit about love. I'm sorry that you got the wrong person. Like, that's definitely not my brand. I'm not like a love girl. I'm not like, so I just was like, and they're like, no, you need to be redefining love. They need to understand it from our perspective. We're not talking about like Hallmark cards. We're not talking about like romance, you know, novels. We're talking about a different kind of love. And so I didn't even know what a podcast was. I remember asking my partner, like, is that like a internet radio show? Like, I didn't know.
Yeah, that was early.
Yeah.
That was early. Yeah.
I mean, sort of.
I mean, were iPods still around?
It was 2016, so not bad.
Yeah.
Actually. I mean, I was
Yeah.
just late to the game,
Yep.
but I just listened. I said yes, and then within 1 week, I randomly met this woman. I told her what happened, and she's like, "I have a production company. I want to produce this," and it was just like things just started lining up
Wow.
and falling into place. And I mean, they kept sharing things with me about politics, about reframing justice around unmet needs, around love,
Yes.
and around relationality. And so everything just kind of, I was just in the swirl. I didn't really take a moment to understand the impact, I don't think, at that time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you really start to feel the impact of that?
Well, I had been holding on this whole all of 2015, 2016, 2017, holding on to this idea that I would go back to teaching.
Yeah.
And it was not happening. I mean, I sent hundreds of resumes out. I was being turned down for like tutoring positions, like office manager positions, things I was overqualified for. And I finally said to the records, because I kind of also was like, I don't really want to go back because I'm kind of enjoying this, but I didn't want to
Yeah.
admit that to myself. So I told the records, I'll go back to teaching if I can get a part-time job that pays a full-time salary, if I don't have to hide my spiritual side at the school for the sake of like, a lot of schools want you to
Mhm.
be a neutral vessel as a teacher. And if I can teach what I want to teach with English, because I had an English credential. I mean, a month later, I got exactly an offer, like
What?
exactly the thing that I had been asking for. And that was like December of 2017. And I in the morning, I did like a phone screening interview with them. And I was like, okay, my logical brain was like, good, this is what you need. You need income because you're broke as hell. Like you need this. But I remember getting super sick in the morning before, just randomly, and throwing up before the interview. And my body, I mean, I guess it was my Akashic voice, or I don't know what. It was just like, this is a no. Your body is telling you no, and you need to listen to it.
Yeah.
And I called them and I said, I don't want the job. And that was like, I come from a family where like you work. We don't care if you like it or not. You don't have
Yeah.
like you work. Everyone
Mhm.
works. You have to work. If you're lucky, you get a job that you like, but if not, who cares? Do something you like
Got to pay
afterward.
the bills. Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember calling my mom and telling her what I did. And for the first time in my life, she was like, I trust you. And this sounds right.
Wow.
And I just was like, okay, that's weird. So I knew something was up, but like making that hard choice to not take a job was really when I made the turn directly, like both feet jumped into this path.
Yeah. How did you find yourself sharing the messages that were coming through? Because those are really powerful collective messages.
Yeah. I mean, well, the podcast was one that we didn't get a lot of listenership because I had no idea how to do marketing at that time. But really it grew through Instagram. I have a little tiny Instagram following, but I have very um committed followers. And I don't even like
Yes.
that word because it's so one directional, because I've really built relationships with a lot of people that want to be in community with me. Um, but really, yeah, I'd say Instagram, and then a newsletter. At the early on in my Crystals of Altamira career, I was like doing crystals and I don't know, just into all kinds of stuff. And so I was like vending at all kinds of community like markets, and getting to know different groups, and just really
Mm.
like throwing my name out there in LA and building like a really big network of people that were like interested in what I had to say.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much how I did it.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like what inspired you to start the mentorship and the classes that you offer?
Yeah. Well, I I love teaching. I've always just like,
Yeah.
so like maybe whereas like teaching as a job is not my identity. Being a teacher, like having a teaching mindset, a curriculum development mindset, that is absolutely like second nature to me, and it always has been.
I
And
can feel that. It's
oh,
so
good.
helpful. It's
Oh,
so
good.
helpful.
I love it. It's so satisfying to me. And I love being taught. I love being a student. I love that relationship and that orientation toward our existence. So I knew that I wanted to continue teaching. And I trained first in the Akashic Records through Helen von der Heide, who was a student of Linda Howe. And then I began to take classes with Linda Howe. So she was like my primary teacher in the Akasha. And early on, it was like clear that, I mean, it didn't, not early on. I think it took a long time for me to build my confidence, but I knew that like I was learning things that were really liberating me from limiting beliefs that I had been holding my whole life that were stopping me from living in my resonant path. Like I was really holding on to, I just didn't think there was any option other than to think I'm worthless or I'm unlovable or I'm unloved. I didn't, and a lot of that has to do with colonialism, that we're taught from the beginning, from day one, that like you are nothing and you will derive your worth from how well you participate in our economy, like how much you will produce capital for the state. That's going to determine how successful you are, and then that will give you worth here. So we already have that working against us. And then depending on the nuances of your personal trauma history and your family and your upbringing and blah, 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 it can be really difficult to shed or even think that there's another possibility besides just believing those limiting beliefs are true. And I was learning things and experiencing things and surrendering to things in the Akashic Records that were completely changing my experience. Like my relationships were changing, my experience in the world was changing. I once thought that I was slightly introverted, but it turns out no, I'm not. Like I stopped being afraid. I stopped, like all of these things were changing for me. I stopped having anxiety. And I wanted so much, because of that fairness chip on my shoulder, I want everyone to have access to this if that's what they want. So I started teaching like these one-off classes. Like I did like an intuition development, which is really about trusting yourself. And I did like just different things like excavating your limiting beliefs in the Akashic Records. And I did just like workshops on like visioning and workshops on just different things but none of them were like, this is it. And so when I got into my PhD program and I started learning these concepts, I was like, if only the public had access to concepts like decoloniality, if only they had access to concepts like ontology, for some people that might totally shift, like all of us who are seeking healing think that we have pathologies. We think that we are broken and need to be fixed. And what if that's just not a true like orientation at all? Like what if we were never broken? But no one will say that, because that doesn't make healers money. That doesn't make the, big pharma money. That doesn't make the mental health industry money. So I wanted to share this stuff. And so Living Systems was like my offering. It's a year-long course with the goal of sharing with people these concepts in the hope that we understand ourselves as relational beings and not just as individuals who are separate from each other. So like, what does it feel like when we shift toward an ecological way of being, where we understand that our worth is not derived through laboring, but just from being alive. And so that's where Living Systems came from. And then, so I did that for the first year. And then I have for the last several years taught like an intro to the Akashic Records, but it was just like a 3-hour workshop. It wasn't a lot. And I started getting people asking like, do you take on personal students? Can you mentor me? And I never felt good doing that, like saying, yes, I can do this, because I've seen, for lack of a better word, I've seen a lot of charlatans in my industry who, without, well, maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally, cause harm with the recklessness of teaching a spiritual practice and not really being able to hold space for trauma.
Yeah.
And so I kept saying no to so many inquiries about mentoring. And it wasn't until this past year, through work in my records, I took an extensive, like 13-month Akashic teacher training with Helen, that it became very clear to me, like, it's time, and it's not for you, it's because this needs to be shared. And the point of this mentorship is not to create a bunch of mini Leahs, it's to help people have a container where they actualize into their most resonant selves, in their way. They're going to be them. And so, like, when people ask me, like, how do I become a reader like you, how do I do it like you, my answer is always like, oh my God, no. Well, you can't be, because you need to be a reader like you.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure the mentorship was designed just for people to have space to become more themselves.
Yeah. I really love that, because the information is received in so many different ways. Like, I can definitely see, especially, I was totally one of those people at the beginning of my journey. Like, when I saw, came across a teacher who was really inspiring and really connected in, and I was like, oh my gosh, what you're doing feels like a dream, but then realizing that, like, that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
And that information is received in all different ways, and that it's like really about connecting in with yourself and learning to trust your own intuition, and learning to trust the information that comes through in whatever way it comes through.
Yeah. And Linda Howe says, I mean, I don't know, this kind of stings when I hear it, but I understand what she's saying. She says, nobody here is special, but everyone here is unique. And I'm like, oh, I'm special. We're all like, I'm like, no. But I get what she's saying, because special has like a connotation of I'm better than you. Whereas unique is like you have specific things about you that are needed that only you can bring.
Yeah.
And I really wish we could see that about ourselves.
Yeah. It's such an important thing to learn, I think. And so valuable if you find someone who can help, like, shepherd that lesson even early on in the journey. And what I love about the mentorship is that everyone is there for their own personal development, and that everyone is in different places in their own practice. And so it's sort of like, like, come as you are. All are welcome, because this is a space to just share and be in community.
Totally.
But I'm curious if you find that that people sometimes meet a little bit of resistance when they don't receive messages in the way that they hope to or expect to.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Especially if they are clients turned students who have had a reading with me, and they're like blown away by my ability as a reader, not understanding that it's taken me, not just like my whole teaching career to get really good at like relationships with those kinds of relationships, but then on top of that, develop like an ease with the practice that I can just jump right in a reading,
right,
and it will be easeful. That takes, like, I've been doing the Akashic work for 8 years now, every day almost. So it takes a long time. And that's part of like why the mentorship is one of the objectives is to create a devotional practice, which is like, I define it as like developing a love and a loyalty to the practice, instead of like an obligation or like it's community service, I have to do it every day. Like instead of that kind of orientation toward it, developing like, I'm in love with this. It makes me feel good. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to come back every day, because every day is affirming, even when it's not affirming, even when it's difficult. I want to feel that love, and it loves me, and I know it. So like it is hard sometimes, but I would say that whenever it's hard, it's not because of the records, it's because of the beliefs we bring about ourselves to the table. Like if we come already not trusting ourselves, or like if we come struggling with our self-confidence, or if we come with limiting beliefs about, our worthiness or something, those are the things that show up when we engage in this practice. It's not actually the records not choosing you, or they don't like you, or you're not meant for it.
Yeah, that's super interesting because even as I'm reflecting on my own experience with them, it's interesting because my journey kind of started back in 2018, and I've known about the Akashic Records for a long time, and I've had readings from very gifted practitioners, but I always felt very much on the outside of them. Even as someone who spends a lot of meditates every day, has my own practice, and spends a lot of time in energy healing. And it's interesting because even now, as you're saying that, I'm looking at sort of like, okay, when I open the records, I know that this is a process of opening new connections. And so I'm far more open now to opening the records and just sitting with what comes through. But for me, that's all in forms of energies and colors and frequencies. It's not a direct dialogue, or at least not yet, if it's ever going to,
Yeah. And I think also that's interesting that you say you felt like on the outside of it. I think also this is why decoloniality superimposed on this practice is really important, because we are designed in the colonial world. And so part of that is we're designed to be workers and laborers. And so when we approach a nuanced, subtle practice like this, we approach it as a laborer. Like, what do I do? How do I get it? How do I achieve? I'm not getting anything. How do I receive? And it can feel like, oh, I'm failing, or I'm not good at it. But really, you're receiving, and you maybe don't even know it, because your mind, is the leader in your experience in the colonial world. We're really we're mind heavy, we're sight heavy. We want that evidence, we want that scientific proof. And so this is a subtle practice, and it might take time. And what you're doing in that time is you're melting away the self-doubt, you're melting away the lack of confidence, and you're building up a sense of trust, a sense of confidence. And then your experience starts to become much more cohesive and alive for you.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
But even that in itself has almost its own form of expectation that I realize I need to continue to just allow myself to be in that space and to receive whatever comes through without that expectation or that hope.
Yeah, I am clear cognizant. That is my strongest sense. Extrasensory ability is just a strong sense of knowing. That's how people define claircognizance. And that can look just like my intuition. That can just look like, am I remembering this? It can look like anything other than an Akashic practice. But so the thing that separates me from being an Akashic reader, because of that's my strongest sense, is can I trust that this is actually the records? Can I even though this feels like I might be making it up because it feels like it's just coming from me, can I trust that it's actually I'm engaged with this practice? And if we want to get really philosophical, then we really can boil it down to there is no difference between me and the Akasha. It is the primary substance of all that exists. So I am it. It is me.
Yeah. There's so many places that this can go.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, because as I start again at the beginning of this sort of getting to be a student of the mystical, really, which is my favorite thing in the world. I find myself back in these places where I was oh, I really learned how to work with my gifts as they come through when I'm working with energy, but now in this different space, like learning how to do that once again and to really trust. And so like that for me has been really fun. But also, you know, I have to always remind myself, like, it's a process. It's a practice. That's why we call it a practice. It's like something you come back to every day. And just trust that it's going to unfold as it's meant to.
Totally. Yeah.
And so the other thing that I wanted to touch on, which was so much fun for me, was that I had the honor of experiencing a theta healing with you. Yes. And so I know we haven't talked about this a ton, but you did mention earlier that you had learned about theta healing early in your journey. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yes. In my fun employment moment, I started seeing this woman who is a teacher. She used to work at a place in LA called Liberate Emporium, and has now her own practice called My Path to Light. And her name is Beatriz Blanco. And she, you know, I went to some meditations with her, and then I did some like kind of one-off workshops with her, and then I did some sessions, and she's a theta healer, and the sessions were so powerful, but like subtle power. Like she told me things about myself that were things that I clearly knew, but I didn't think anyone else knew. So, and I think that's like the mark of a really good practitioner or reader, is that they will never surprise you with stuff you don't know about yourself, but they will affirm what you do know about yourself. Anyone that's like coming at you from left field with like, you're this, and you're like, I am wary of readers that do that. And so I did this theta healing session with her, and I don't even remember what beliefs we were working on, but a couple weeks after our session, it's not random, but it felt random at the time, randomly went to my boss at my school. And at that time I had moved into like an administrative position. And I demoted myself. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to be a teacher. I don't want the responsibility. And, you know, everyone was shocked. Even I was shocked. Like, why would I do that? It's like, you know, why would I do this? And I started working with her more, and she like kind of led me through this line of questioning about like, what were you trying to get out of being an administrator? And I was like, well, definitely more money. But also it made me feel like I had more worth if I could say yes to taking on more responsibility. But the more responsibility was really affecting my health. And saying no to the responsibility was like, maybe for the first time in my life, I was prioritizing me and my health. And I didn't know it. It's not like my mind was like, you need to prioritize your health, go quit this aspect of your job. It's like an autopilot turned on, and I just went in and said I wanted demotion. Wow. It was so bizarre, but I realized that like what had happened was the theta healing had worked from the inside out. It was shifting me in ways that my conscious mind really had no awareness of. And at that point I was like, I need to learn how to do this. I want to do it on myself. I want to share this with people. Like, this is wild. So that was my journey. I took like the beginner and the advanced, and there's so many more classes I didn't get to take, but yeah, I love the practice of it.
Yeah, it was really fun for me. It was also like, I don't know what I expected. I had never had a theta healing, so I was really excited just to like be in the experience. But it was so funny. I love how like at the very beginning too, you even pointed out, you're like, okay, so I can see that your body is having this resistance to this. And I was like, yeah, all of a sudden, like a series of 2 questions, we like went deep.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I have to really sit with this. Like, what is that? And then actually naming it out loud was very vulnerable space.
Yeah. I know. And that was the first time we had met too. So I'm like always like blown away that people sign up for this stuff with a stranger. I'm like, we're about to get into your trauma history.
Like we went deep, man.
Yeah. But I hope that what we can do with something like theta healing and the other practice I do, which is metaphysical anatomy technique, that like we can address trauma in a way that doesn't require us to relive it through our conscious mind, which for a lot of people, like I've done a lot of those kinds of practices in addition to stuff like EMDR therapy, which, allows you to tap in to the stories and the traumas that your body's holding without really having to retell it or relive it or rethink it, which is often what stops us from being able to get to a place of agency with our traumas.
Yeah, it was such a cool process because you really took me through like just starting very high level, and then within just a couple of questions we really got down to the root of like, okay, what's this trauma pattern that's running? What's this program that's running in the background? And then allowing it to essentially like I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if I explained it in like computer programming language, it would be like fixing a bug, right?
I mean, like basically like theta healing believes that limiting beliefs live in our body. They're not in our conscious mind, and therefore our conscious mind has very little domain over shifting those beliefs. But if we do this energy work, we can talk to the narratives that our like cells are holding in our DNA, and we can rewrite those things with consciousness, with energy, which sounds so woo-woo. It sounds so out there. But when you think about in the scientific world, things that actually exist and have actual impacts like placebos, which is the effect of consciousness creating an external reality that is real. So our consciousness is like
so powerful.
It's like A1 powerful. It's the most powerful. It is like the only thing that exists. I mean, we could say like the Akashic Records is truly only just consciousness. There's no out there. It's not somewhere else. It's consciousness.
Yeah, that's what I sort of equate it to now, like just divine consciousness. Anything and everything, and it's just this field of potentiality.
Yes, and we're in it. It's not like somewhere else outside of us, and therefore our physical bodies can change and shift, and conditions that we're holding on to in our bodies, and I hate to use this word, but like diseases can be healed if we can get into the place in our consciousness that is like manifesting them.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully believe that. Like, I remember when I left digital marketing in the corporate world, like I was so detached from my body that I was in a place where some days I would have trouble walking because my legs were going numb. And I was always sick. I always had these like really bad skin issues, and I was just like constantly on medication, and I believe more than anything, I mean, looking back, it really took that first year of me not being in the corporate world for my body to like come back into center and for me to like reconnect again. But it really was that practice of like going through the healing of teaching myself that because I went through the same thing that you experienced. I was like, well, if I'm not an account director, who am I? Now that this thing is gone, like I was like so nebulous in my identity, and like I was really excavating my values in just trying anything and everything at the beginning just to feel better. But then as things started to really unfold, like understanding like how our bodies receive that energy and that information, how they carry that energy and information, and how we can like really heal so deeply when you establish like a spiritual connection to, you know, something greater than yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, what you are describing is coloniality of being, the concept of coloniality of being, that you become so, we not just you, we all become so separated from our physical bodies in order to function as the whatever the role is that we've been assigned or taken on in the labor market. You know, like we, to the point where like you were becoming numb, you couldn't even feel yourself. So I mean, that's like this is like why a decolonial, like I don't know how to say it, like the flavor of decoloniality superimposed on a spiritual practice, to me, is so important, because if we're not looking at that, then what kind of healing are we doing? Are we just trying to get ourselves back to be able to work? You know, imagine if you were like, well, I don't want to treat the big issue, I just want to treat the numbness so I can get back to work. Like, I just want to treat, you know, that's not healing.
That's not healing. Yeah, Ellen and I talk about this all the time with our practices. Like, we feel so passionately about working with people who really want to step into that space of working through their shadows, like working through like these old patterns and traumas and like the things that we carry in our bodies and our experiences that hold us back from really being able to step into like our truest being.
Totally.
Because there are people who are like, okay, without that spiritual connection or that practice, who, you know, seek out healers and they're like, oh, maybe I went for an energy healing one day and I felt better for a few days, but then like I forgot about it and nothing really happened. It's like, well, there's you felt better for a couple of days, but like nothing substantial or real was like imparted or shared.
You haven't made the ontological shift, you know, into another world where you are whole.
And then for me, it was like a whole nother stage after that too, where like after really gaining that understanding, still looking at like, okay, what are all my limiting beliefs and like what are all these experiences holding me back from? Because when you start to reevaluate your values and who you are outside of these colonial systems, it really sort of like highlights the places where, you know, you had these beliefs that were so I don't want to say negative, but they're not helpful. They're just limiting.
Totally. They serve to make our colonial lives tenable and doable and tolerable. But they're not in resonance with like our, you know, I hate using all this language because I feel like I don't mean what other people mean, but like they're not in line with our resonant soul level desires for ourselves in this lifetime.
And for me, like my lifetime work will be 1,000% around self-worth. Like that will be my work in this lifetime till the end of time, which I have you
don't know that
gratefully accepted, but I also know. Okay. Oh yeah, you know, you're right. I don't know. I will accept that too.
You have a breakthrough where you're like, that's not my thing anymore.
Yeah. And you know, and in so many ways, actually, now that you say that, I have in little iterations. And so I think it comes through, you know, it comes through when you're ready to receive it. It settles in when you're ready to like step into that space and
I think like when we approach, like when we realize we have limiting beliefs, our immediate in the colonial world is like, get them off me, like heal me, get rid of them. And I like a reframe that I use for myself and in my classes and for my clients is like, those limiting beliefs are there because they're the best way our bodies knew how to meet a need at a time.
Yes.
And now they're limiting because you want to be able to meet that need in a different way that doesn't feel limiting, but you still need to meet the need. So then we like dig into like, okay, self-worth issues have been serving you in some way. Maybe they were protecting you from something, which is amazing that your body can strategize to do that.
Yeah.
And so now you're like, okay, I want to still feel the protection, but I don't want it to come through, questioning my self-worth. I want that to be intact and for me to feel protected in other ways.
Yeah, I really love that perspective. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
That's something I'm definitely going to sit with.
Oh, good. We're not broken. And we're just not broken.
Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to. Is like, holding space for whatever comes up and just knowing that experience is beautiful in and of itself. It made you who you are. And
a technology, like the beliefs that arise after experiencing a trauma are such an indication of the sophistication of our beings. Rather than like, just because they're uncomfortable doesn't mean something is wrong.
Right. I love that so much. So I would love to know, so we like to wrap up every interview with sort of a big question, but it's a really special question. And that is, throughout your journey and all of your experiences that brought you here, what is the one piece of wisdom that you carry with you that you would like to share?
Oh man. Geez, I don't know what to say to other people, but I would say that for myself, the only thing, this sounds so selfish, but I really am like, I'm a selfishness coach, so I guide people to be selfish. No, but the only thing that matters is resonance. And resonance is the experience of a full body yes or full body no. And we often don't have the ability to make a simple decision because our lives are very complicated and there are different stakeholders involved in our decisions and there's different consequences. But if we can get to a place of like, I just want to do this because it's a yes, or I don't want to do this because it's a no, it opens up a path that is satisfying beyond anything our conscious minds could dream for ourselves. Like we exceed the glass ceiling of what the mind can plan when we listen to resonance. We don't even know. We think that we're these thinkers that are like these individuals making 3-year plans and 5-year plans. We have no idea what wonders and like amazing, loving, incredible journeys and experiences are ahead of us if we say yes to what just feels like a yes and no to what feels like a no. And so I always tell people, like, I'm only going to listen to resonance. Like people are like, oh, wow, you found your path. And I'm like, you know what? I could leave all this behind and I could be a nail tech next year if I feel like it. Like if that's what becomes resonant, like I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. That's so beautiful because it really is like, it feels like that's so what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
Like
I think people also are like, their immediate next thing is like, well, you say you care about decoloniality and equity, and how it's like, isn't that really selfish? And selfishness is a judgment of colonialism. Selfishness is, that kind of like thinking is like, we needed to have that limiting concept imposed on us so that we would never listen to ourselves and never live our resonant paths. Because when we do that, we stop becoming, automatons for the state. We stop producing capital for the state. We start doing what we want to do. And it's not in the best interest of capitalism for us to be living our agential resonant lives. When we listen to agency, because we came here to live in relationship with each other, or so when we listen to resonance and we came here to live in relationship with each other, I think that we will inherently choose paths that uplift each other. It's not selfish.
Yeah. That resonates so much with me because it's like Elle and I always talk about like the shine theory, right? Like there's enough light to shine on all of us, and when one person glows bright, it's like shining light on so many others. And like there's space for everyone.
And
totally. Like that for me was like something that came through very early on, especially coming out of such like a competitive industry, because I was like, wait a minute, why is everybody competing with each other to like one up? Why aren't we lifting each other up and rising collectively?
Yeah. Competition is fallacious. It is not the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just been such a gift to get to be part of your Akashic mentorship and to really be on this part of my journey with you. I'm just so grateful that you're here and that the universe brought us together, because I'm really excited to see where this goes and how this opens up. And I feel like there's just so much potential and so much good and beautiful shared work that can come from this. And so in that vein, where can people reach you if they would like to work with you?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you. And thank you for trusting me as your mentor. I really, I don't take that job lightly. So thank you. But people can find me. I am primarily most active on Instagram, but I also have a website, crystals.of-altamira.com. And those are really just basically the two ways. I only do public sessions 2 days a month at this point, just because my classes have taken over so much of my time. My classes are closed until 2024, but if you want to try them out, I recommend subscribing to my newsletter, because I always give newsletter people priority registration before it goes to Instagram, which you can find on my website or on my Instagram bio. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank you. This is such a treat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We are so excited to announce our first ever medicine retreat, Land is Body is Land. It's taking place May 23rd through 28th in Costa Rica's Playa Azul. It's going to be a sensory celebration of embodiment, where we will spend 5 nights and 6 days giving ourselves permission to slow down, to listen and feel, to taste and smell, and to really dive deeper into our senses, to observe our bodies, to witness our bodies and our relationship to the land. Healing doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in community and in relationship. And to heal or to become whole again, we must reconnect those disconnected parts of ourselves. So that means reconnecting to the land that is our bodies, really leaning in and learning and listening to the language of frequency and sensation that our bodies speak. And we also must reconnect to the land that sustains our bodies, learning to commune with the spirits of nature and the earth. And so we'll be visiting a biodynamic farm, exploring food, learning about our sacred relationship with food. We'll be journeying through breath work, receiving healing through Reiki and sound, and also journeying with the sacred mushroom. So we hope that you can join us. If you're interested, please fill out our intake form on our website, wearealldaughters.co. Again, our website is wearealldaughters.co. We hope to welcome you into our circle. Music for Wu Nu is composed by Adam Miller.